Right, sun's coming out. Sharon's popped over from Dublin.
Yep.
From Dublin, colleague of mine, and we were just chatting about stuff in general. What were you saying about you were talking something about mental health? What was the things you were talking about?
Okay, so I hear of a lot of young people on antidepressants lately. Some are teenagers and some are in their 20s. And I was wondering what's your opinion on this?
Well, first of all, there's no proof that any of these medications work. There was a book called The Anatomy of an Illness by I think Richard Whittaker,
Okay.
and he was saying he was a journalist, investigative journalist, and as we've seen today with Toby Watson's work on YouTube, that the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, is not scientific. It's just a result of people voting on what they think are criteria for mental health.
Okay.
So all most mental health problems are not, well, other than brain damage or mental damage.
So tissue damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will result in disturbance of expression, as I call it. I don't call it mental health.
Okay.
So in a disturbance of expression. So for me, other than that, all the other things are social cultural phenomena. Whether it's dyslexia or ADHD or autism, there's no. And they go, oh, they find genetic things. Well, you know what? We find genetic things for everything. Genetics is not a blueprint to make something. Genetics, well, genes are an expression. They're plastic. They're dynamic. So if you're upset about something and you're upset about something for long enough, then genetically you will express that disturbance in genetic form.
So, would you think that there's like the way we manage mental health as a society or even as a healthcare system? So, like, we're in two different healthcare systems, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily be happy. That's a big word, I guess, but I don't know if I'm content with the way we
I don't
do
think it's mental health. I think it's social health.
Yeah.
In fact, I prefer that term, social cultural health conditions.
Yeah.
It's actually the result of the way we treat each other.
Okay, because I've seen that Thomas Sachs's work, who says it's more about supporting a person through emotional upheaval as opposed
I mean, a lot of kids I see that have so-called depression are reacting to expectations that they're not happy with.
So does that go into the idea of action-reaction as opposed to, a person who'd be maybe more confident or more sure of themselves, or that they can observe?
I think it's a dynamic. So rather than action-reaction, I think it's a dynamic. Is that we have all of us have expectations of ourselves, we have expectations of other people, and how we manage those expectations is really important. I mean, I was talking earlier on about not caring, or don't care but be caring.
Yeah.
If you care about everything, your expectations, they'll just tear you to pieces. Be caring, but don't care.
Your expectations of the other person.
Yeah, and of yourself.
And of yourself.
And of yourself, because you're part of the problem, or the result of the problem.
Okay.
So if you...
Because you're caught in conflict. Because
so go back to self-conflict.
If you suit yourself, you feel guilty. If you don't suit yourself, you feel yes.
Then you haven't done enough for
so
yourself.
Then you've got disturbance.
Right, so you end up with this self-conflict. Self-conflict is one of the worst things ever. Like regret.
Yeah. Is it common?
It's people with self-conflict. I don't know whether to do this, know whether to do that.
Is that the same with decision making?
Well, you end up paralysing yourself. Because we used to say in America, extreme analysis leads to paralysis.
I hate to say I know that feeling.
Well, that's it.
Extreme analysis.
we end up feeling that there's things we have to do. We have to go through the system. Somebody, you might ask somebody, do you think this jumper's nice? And they say to you, well, yes,
really.
No, it's fantastic jumper. And you go, are you sure it's fantastic jumper? And you go, well, actually, it is a fan. No, you hesitated there. You weren't sure it's a fan. It's like, let it go. Okay. It's a jumper.
Yes, it's not a big deal.
It is.
And it's treating the small things relative to the smallity that they are will help
but
you
also
make
the opposite,
with the big things.
But also the opposite happens, and this is the whole thing about dynamic. Andrew Salter, the famous psychologist, said there's nothing bigger in life than the little things.
Yes.
So again, it's a dynamic. It's in perspective. So to smile at somebody walking down the street could make their day. But it's a small thing.
Or could threaten them, depending on how they are.
There you go.
But that's not your problem.
So exactly.
And that's it. The trick.
Trick is, don't care but be caring.
Yes. So you smile at them because you're caring, but you don't care on their response because that's out of your control. Yeah. Okay.
And there's no right way to do something.
And it's the expectation of expecting them to smile back.
Everyone has expectations. I've expectations of myself.
Yeah.
I expect expectations of other people. But if somebody lets me down,
Yeah.
I shouldn't care.
So what makes the difference?
If somebody lets me down,
Yeah.
if it affects me in any way, then I must not care. Because somebody said to me, I've got some friends who get very angry when people don't respond to them by text.
Yeah.
Or don't return their
Yeah.
calls. I'm going, well, why are you angry with them?
Mm.
They haven't responded to my text. They haven't sent my, or whatever, or haven't returned my. Well, so what? Who are you?
So it's checking in at yourself when the emotions are disturbing you.
Well, even that it's like whatever you find disturbing
Check in with yourself.
is wrong in its very nature because it's disturbing you. So I'm just sort of say
Right.
again, you know.
But in order to change, you'd have to have insight. Hang on a minute, I'm being disturbed. How
you
can I
have to be
change this behaviour?
This is self-awareness.
Or this thinking.
This is self-awareness. People are totally unaware of the surroundings, totally unaware of how they're treating other people. You know, you get people who crash in on your conversation, who cut across you when you're speaking to them repeatedly. I don't mean occasionally.
Like I'm doing now.
Well, no, not even that. But just, you know, I know somebody who just does it all the time.
Yeah.
And never lets people finish their, and that's because of lack of self-awareness. It's me, me,
Yes,
me.
yes.
But at the same time, you need to be me, me, me on the other side of the dynamic, because if you're going to help other people, the best place to start is with yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Be selfish. To be selfish in that way means you can actually, you know, look after your own health, do your own thing, and you can actually help other people massively. To be selfish.
Alright.
Self-awareness is, I think, the most important thing.
Okay.
And if somebody, it's not important that someone's not doing what you want, or, you know, because you're the only person to suffer. Because one of the other quotes from Andrew Salter again was, you know, my health is in the hands of the people I let anger me. So it's a case of that. You know, so what?
Mm.
And people are very controlling. I was discussing with someone the other night. I know it was one of my patients, but people being controlling. People are being controlled, especially in relationships, right? People are being controlling. Will not work on them. They don't work on themselves to develop themselves, as in self-awareness. They rather control somebody else.
Yeah.
And dominate them and suppress them.
But there'll be certain people attracted to them in relationships, be it friendship-wise or otherwise, won't it?
Yeah,
and those certain people will also be attracted by them because they need the assurance of their control.
So it's go back to William James again, my hero. Which is about, you know, it's a habit. Yeah.
William James is just like it.
Well, no,
sorry, just do it.
Just do it, yeah.
Yeah,
William James,
which is the Nike thing.
Yeah, the act as if principle.
Yeah.
Birds. Oh, bumblebee. Oh, something over there. Anyway, yeah, William James is the act as if principle, so it's down to habits.
Right, so it's changing habits ultimately.
Right, so habits are not something you do repeatedly. A habit is something you do easily.
So you need the self-awareness and then
doing it, and then so on and so on.
To practice the behaviour of not doing
and to change a habit, you always start in very small steps.
Like the jumper.
So if I'm going to, if I want to get used to opening brown envelopes as a tax man, first thing I do is pick the thing up the floor just straight away and put it on the table. Next thing I do is pick up the envelope within a certain space of time, open it and put the contents on top of the envelope, go away, come back again, then look at the damn thing, read it, put it down again and read it again, and then take time to think. So it's just processing.
Or the yellow jumper, it's like, so if somebody says, no, I don't like that yellow jumper, and you're like, oh, because I really like it, I'm really disappointed.
Sodom. No,
so,
don't go Sodom.
But that's
do you
change.
like the jumper?
And that's, so, but the practice would be, or the maybe behavioural change would be to get your consoling person to say no, they don't, you know, to find something that they don't like.
But it's also the way they say it.
Continue to wear it in a positive
way. But also in the way they say it.
Yeah.
If you say, do you like this jumper? They say no, that's one thing. So you get something get lost. They say yes, you go, I don't trust you, I'm going to change it. Or they might say, actually, great jumper, but doesn't go well with the skirt or the trousers, or have you tried, you can do that, but they can also be there forever. So decision making is not worrying about the outcomes and having priorities about what is really,
what really matters.
What really matters. I mean, if you wore a yellow jumper with a, I don't know, something ridiculous, and it would look ridiculous, you know, whatever, then you'd just look ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But it's all this process of constant analysis, and I think for me, the key issue is that whatever we try and do with mental health problems, we have to realise that Western philosophy has no facility for personal experience.
Right.
So,
Okay.
so-called mental health problems or socio-economic health problems, I
Yeah.
see them, are a personal experience. The
Right.
method we're choosing to use to help them has no facility for help in it.
Okay.
So in fact we're making it worse.
Well, I feel that in patterns that I see in society or out there, and the trends certainly seem to be worse. I mean, we're talking about depression, which almost seems normal now, but also like there's the thing
When we are normalising it.
yeah, but there's also the thing that we shove under the carpet, and that's teenage suicide, which I think is
Well, that's the end product of this
Of course.
extreme
of course
despair.
Yeah.
And it's going to get, I think it's going to get worse.
Well, I think we're already there around that slight.
But the actual acceleration of it, funny enough, comes from, I would say, was from phone apps. You know, one of my patients was asked by a consultant psychiatrist to get the app
Yeah.
Mind something or other. It was to
Yeah, I know the one. I know, yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
and if our
It's
philosophy,
mindful.
whatever, yeah, mindful,
Headspace.
headspace, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, mindfulness is just a bit of nonsense. So we're going to end up accelerating
Yeah.
the problem because we cannot solve the problem with the philosophy that we have because it has no room for the problem. It
We
doesn't
try
have it in
to
it.
put boxes so
Yeah,
it contains.
the whole idea of fragmentation, of separation, of analysis is what's causing the dehumanisation of people's emotions because they think, because philosophy has no experience facility, therefore people are
Yeah.
feeling no one's looking at me, no one's thinking about me because the whole process is an abstract generalisation.
Yeah.
So every time we use language to try and do something or help individuals, in the long term it's making everything chronic because there's no facility for it.
Yeah, there's two things are coming to my head now and they're different. One is Charlotte Weaver's work, right? And the other is I feel there's a lot more, if we go back to kids and teenagers, because that's what we all were once, but there's an awful lot of analysing in their being successful or not. So it's like
So what school
Yeah.
exams? School exams.
or it's even like school exams is an example, but it's even like I was in my local cafe near our local, near the weekend before our marathon, our local marathon, and it wasn't, are you doing the marathon or I'm doing the marathon, it's what time do you hope to get?
That's it, the quantification process.
Yeah.
What about
And
social media?
and then afterwards, what time did you get?
Not did you enjoy it?
And it's like, well, it's an amazing achievement, I think, to do it and participate in it and train for it and commit for it. But it bypasses all that and
But does
it's
it-
categorising you
it
straight away
bypasses personal
into
experience.
time. And it's like, you're a runner, why aren't you doing it? And I give my reason for not doing it. It's like, oh, you know.
But it's
It's
like
not good to
process.
run
when
for
we
fun.
go, when Reggie and I, well, in fact, I've got a good friend of mine, Patrick, a patient of mine, probably would watch this. And Patrick's an engineer and everything else, and he does triathlons and marathons. And we always speak about the process. In fact, with Patrick and I did a SoundCloud thing some time ago. We just while treating him, we just audioed the treatment. And we talk about the quantification of sport.
Yeah.
So, you know, how long did you jump, how far did you jump, how far did you swim, what was your timing, and that seems to be the
How
only
many have you
factor.
done?
Right,
Yeah.
that seems the only factor we get out of sports, how long,
Yeah.
how fast, how quick. How
Yeah.
about, how did it feel for you?
Yes.
You
Or
know,
well done for doing it.
Did you enjoy it?
Or,
You know, it's
yeah.
that simple process, and that's why, you know, Dr. George Sheehan's book, Running and Being, is such a fantastic book on the philosophy
Yes,
of running.
I must read it, I haven't read it.
Really good book.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's nothing wrong with quantity, but we
Yeah.
must bring the quality up with it.
Yes, good point.
Because when I say I run,
Good
people
point.
immediately say, how far do you run?
Yeah,
It's like, well, how about, are you enjoying the running?
yeah.
And we do the trail running and everything else, and we really enjoy it.
But you feel good after it, or
Well, it's like when we
what
run through the
benefits
woods.
did you get?
No
Yeah.
earphones. Everyone's got earphones on, running to dumb out the world around you. It's like,
There's different reasons for running, isn't there?
yeah,
For exercising.
absolutely different reasons. But this whole process of health and the separation of mental health from physical health, there is no
Yeah.
separation. What Goethe was saying, for example, is, you know, you are embedded in the world. Imagine we are all embedded in the world. So therefore, all our thought processes and our physical processes are, I suppose, yin-yang. So the body is somewhere and the mind is nowhere.
Of course.
So but what makes the mind
It's a
somewhere?
contradictory thing.
Yes, what makes the mind somewhere
Yeah.
is our religious background. This is what Descartes put the mind in the head. Okay, so what we have instead of mind, what we should be having is a sense of awareness. Our awareness is around here. So, because our awareness is around here, we assume the mind is in here.
Okay, so our awareness is around here. Is
Yeah,
that
but
because
awareness-
our big senses are
We are aware, all our senses other than touch are above the bottom lip, okay? Because the mouth, the way into the body, it's guarding the entrance to the mouth. So
that's the evolution.
yeah, that's the evolutionary thing again. So really, the whole process, the whole situation of mental health is actually self-awareness.
But can you become, so going back to the children, teenager again, can you become, are you given a good opportunity to become self-aware if you're very much in an analytical family or school or friendship?
Well, no, because it fragments. In that process of fragmentation.
So it's feeding into mental health, the way it's like.
So mental health is for me, again, like this social cultural phenomenon, mental health is only what you do, not what you think. So if I went into someone's house, and there's two extremes. If I went to someone's house and it was so tidy that it looked like a operating theatre, I think something was up.
I thought that this.
Right?
If
I then go into someone's
I had that
house,
experience recently.
if I then go to someone's house,
and sure enough, there was something up.
right?
Yeah.
And then at the other extreme, if I then go into someone's house and it's full of newspapers over the floor,
Right.
old boxes,
Yeah.
uneaten food in the kitchen, been there for weeks, there's something wrong.
Like mine was a few hours before you visited.
There you go. But if you stayed like that.
Yeah. When you visited,
So
that's true.
when we see a teenager's bedroom, which is a complete mess, this is not a mental health issue.
Yeah.
This is what they're going through.
It's just a stage of their being.
It's a stage. It's what they're going through. You know, we get them to try to tidy it up because we want it tidy, but they are looking for when their rooms are completely messy, which they should be at some point.
Yeah.
Because that's an expression of openness, as in
Right.
ready to receive anything, but
See-
not formalising anything yet.
Get rid of the order.
Well, it's also Goethe was talking about bone formation in relation to this.
Right.
He was saying when the epiphyses slightly bind up and they stop growing, they'll then tidy their bedrooms up because it's an openness. They're going through a stage of openness. They're waiting for anything to happen rather than organising anything. So the best way to do that is just throw your socks on the floor, your underpants over the light or whatever, your towel, wet towel on the bed, right? As you get into the point of your own lifestyle becoming and your own way of seeing the world becoming more organised, you will then tidy up.
Right. Okay. So what in your opinion happens if you've got an awful lot of authority and structure and it's not acceptable to throw the things?
Then you'll be
away?
that's suppression.
So you'll have an
You'll
outburst in your 20s.
you'll have problems later in life.
Or you might rebel in your a teenage rebel in your 20s.
The teenagers themselves might rebel, but you might have issues. You'll carry issues into adulthood. You've never had a stage of being open.
Right.
Open to change, making your own decisions, being a free spirit. It's like my son going off at 18 across America on his own. It was like, oh really? You've got to let these things go.
Yeah.
You know, people have to be open. Yes, you know, I might have an untidy bedroom, but my lounge may be tidy. The washing up's done.
Yeah.
That to me is a bit more of a balance.
But
Everything being absolutely spotless.
But there'll be some people who will also maybe travel the world or do these different things, but they won't have had that. They still won't have had that openness or
because
that
it may be
or
too
that-
organised. There's no rules. It's a dynamic. So some people could still travel the world and still be really sort of analytical about everything.
It's ticking boxes.
Or going to another country, or travelling and never looking. You know, let's go for example. Let's say you're an expat goes from Ireland or England down to southern Spain, and then you stay with the expats. You never mix with the Spanish.
Yeah, but the truth is, you could also be in couch surfing, but you could not open yourself to the change. You could be still going 90 to the dozen in your head.
It's a dynamic. The only reason it becomes a problem is when it becomes a problem.
Right.
It's okay. So you can't prescribe an outcome to something if it's dynamic.
Right.
If I'm doing something that's interfering with something else that is a priority in my life or other people's lives, then that's a problem.
So you must be doing what you're.
Let's say, for example, I don't know. I'm trying to think of an example. If I'm let's keep it sensible. If I'm trying to, let's say I'm doing the crossword puzzle, right? Let's say I like doing the crossword every day. But then I start doing a crossword for an hour, then it goes to 3 hours every day.
All right, okay.
Then
Yeah.
the bills aren't being paid, and
Yeah.
because I'm doing the crossword, then that crossword is now a problem.
Yeah.
Doing a crossword is not a problem,
Yeah.
but doing
I
it
get
to the point of interference with normal. So, or if I'm let's say I really want to do the crossword every day, so what I'll do is instead of interfering with the day's work, I'll get up a bit earlier. Fine, then you've catered for the problem.
Yeah, I get it.
So.
Yeah.
Things are only pathological, or not even pathological. Things are only problematic if they interfere with what needs to be done.
Okay. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's personal, whether it's family, or whatever. Which we all do to some degree. We'll put something off till tomorrow. But if you keep putting things off, doing something else, then that things becomes. It's like habits. Habits are not a problem unless they interfere with something. Good habits, bad habits. Good habits, paying your taxes on time. Going out to the shopping regularly. But if you keep having habits that are so regimented, that leave you with a massive lack of flexibility, they then become a problem. So a good habit can become a bad habit.
Yeah.
So it's just a dynamic between things,
Okay. Yeah. And Charlotte Weaver has worked with mental health for a very long time.
As in our books, said that. But again, the mental health issue is not a brain issue. Mental health is a relationship with our environment and people issue.
Right.
So you can be disturbed, and again, you can have disturbances. But don't forget, it was James Parkinson, as in Parkinson's disease, who was known as the father of paleontology. Back to the evolution thing again. All mental health problems begin in the bowel and ascend to the head.
Okay. Yeah.
So you don't get nervous in your head; you get nervous here. This is self-awareness. This is the bowel is primary. So if you hear a loud bang, you do that first, and then you think, "What was that?" So all thinking is the end of the problem.
Okay.
So to think about something. So let's go back to think about. Let's go back to think about mental health problems. To think about anything is too late.
Yeah.
Because it's the end of the process. Because for me to be aware of something, it must already be there.
Is this why a good way to learn is often through pain? So you learn by error. You learn by the complications caused by error, and then
you can do, but again, it's any thought process is always too late. Because.
But then it doesn't become a thought process because your behaviour changes because you don't want to feel that pain again.
Well, no, if you do things emotionally, with a sensibly emotionally, I don't mean rationally emotionally, sensibly emotionally. Let's say if I want to make a cup of coffee and I get myself excited about making coffee, then it gets easy. It's easy.
Right.
If I hate coffee, then and I don't want to make coffee, it becomes the hardest thing in the world to do.
Okay.
So the act is not the making of the coffee; it's our emotion. It's like when you're a kid, you can overcome anything. As you get older, and it's like, I don't want to go in the corner and get a pint of milk. So William James said, try and do 2 things a day that you don't want to do.
Ah, very good.
So therefore, you get in the habit of doing.
Yeah, and pushing yourself
it's
to
not
that uncomfortable
Exactly.
place.
It's not the thing that's done, it's the doing.
Yeah.
So if I think about something, it must have been there before I thought about it. Or if I turn, it's like perception. If I can see the cup, if I can turn, be aware of the cup, it has to be there before I turn.
Yeah.
It's the end. So when you think about biological processes like mental health, which are unfolding because we're gesturing all the time.
Yeah.
If somebody has a panic attack, for example, by the time they have the panic attack, it's too late.
Yeah.
So you need to
get them
before that.
Yeah.
And find out what they're doing. And what you'll find with people with panic attacks, they're acting in a state of panic before the attack. But they don't know it. They go, oh, I was doing absolutely nothing. But the fact they're sitting there like this all the time. Everything's like, and of course the attack comes about because they drop their body tension and relax. Because the panic attack happens when in the car, at the lights, listen to their favourite tune and relaxed. The body goes like this, and it's off.
Yeah.
Because it's that level. It's like when you're going to sleep on the sofa and you jerk. It's a lack of tension.
Yeah.
The panic attack person is trying to hold a level of body tension
all the time.
All the time.
Or for far too long.
And it becomes a conditioned response. So by the time they get the attack, it's when they drop the tension. Their body's trying to bring it back to what it thinks is normal.
So then they get confused because they feel they're doing the right thing and they felt good, and why did this come on?
Why this come on?
And can you give me something to...
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's the tension level, and you can feel that all the time. So that tone changes. But again, I think if we're trying to, like you talked about dyslexia earlier on,
Yeah.
Strombolia, the
That
term
was
is.
on, yes. Yeah.
That again, you know, I said before that dyslexia, for example, is a social cultural phenomenon. It's not a mental health issue, because there's no pathological changes found at post-mortem. So therefore, our educational system, for example, is one of standardisation. Can't stand, you know.
It is very much so.
So Ken Robinson was saying this in one of his videos. You know, it's a whole standardisation process. You can't standardise people. So this is industrial revolution approach towards education in batches, age groups.
So perhaps education system may change now in the next few years, right?
Well, if Apple get hold of it, because I've said before, I'm predicting the end of the university system, or
Right.
it'll suffer. Don't forget, the university system is a Jesuit system back to the 16th century.
Yeah.
The word university, verse
right.
to move, is the prime mover, it's God. Okay.
Yeah.
And they were very discriminatory about that nothing should interfere with theology, so that's why philosophy and theology are put together.
When they should be.
They've been Catholicised. The whole education is Catholicised.
Yeah.
So therefore, this whole standardisation process, and after this standardisation process, appear these children
Yeah.
who don't fit in. Called
Fit into-
attention deficit. They're called
Yes,
ADHD.
of course,
They're called
of course.
or whatever. They're called dyslexic. They just don't fit into the system.
And we'll say a few years back, they would have probably left school early because that was socially fine back then.
And seen as stupid.
Well, yeah, but many of them would have gone on in the
they-
work world.
Yeah,
and
but they would have
really
done
well.
vocational things like woodwork and this sort of thing, and end up being
Or
plumbers and
business
carpenters.
people. I know some business people who left school.
Oh yeah,
early.
because they were
but
thinking
they
for
had
themselves.
their own way. Yeah.
And
But
so,
it
in
was
the
fine
main,
back then
you're
too.
either stupid or you're academic or you're not.
Yeah.
And that was the separation, which is absolute nonsense. So the
Yeah.
basis of academia was the Greek classics, philosophy, and then of course the other end was my school was woodwork, metalwork, you know, whatever, sewing,
So
home economics. If you'd
Yeah.
done home economics and paid attention, you'd be a really wealthy chef at the moment. It's true though, it's
Yeah.
home economics. It was seen as the lowest,
Yeah.
you know, Saturday
Yeah.
morning. We see chefs every Saturday morning
Yeah.
making the money because they did home economics,
yes. Yeah.
cooking, you know, or accounting at
Or
home.
they just left school and decided at some stage that they really loved cooking. So
But
they
the-
did what they loved.
Right, which means
Yeah.
if the education system was correct, it would have
Yeah.
catered for that. See what I did there?
Yeah.
Catered. It would have catered for that,
Yeah.
and bring cooking on as a serious subject.
Yeah, the trouble I think the thing I get frustrated with is we know a lot now about different learners and things like this, but we're still.
Do you know where
not-
that came from? As in kinesthetic, visual, audio. You know the different learners.
Yeah.
Came from Little John.
Little John.
That's it. One of the founders of osteopathy.
There we go.
1899. I've got the book.
Wow. And it makes a
spoke of
massive difference. Wow. But why does it take so long? 1899, and it's only now of recent years.
I think
Because
it's been
when
going
I
on-
was in secondary school, I never heard of it.
Right, I think it's been going on for a few years, but not as long as we think.
Yeah, but not as
these
long
things-
as is known. That's the
but
point.
and again, I think there's even a problem with that because the separation of people into their senses groups,
Yeah,
kinesthetic,
sure,
visual, auditory.
And it doesn't allow change.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like is itself wrong. That
Yeah.
that any presentation should cover those things.
Yeah.
And those are the ends again. So it's the process we need
There's
to
a
be
lack
looking
of
at.
responsibility too. Sometimes, isn't there? In
Personal, it's also a lack of personal responsibility.
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
You know, and it's
And our control. In another sense, would it be better to give the skills?
sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a sense of entitlement. I should have this, rather than joining in and making a contribution.
And how can us osteopaths, do you feel, authentically help these?
Osteopaths should be helping people because osteopaths are human beings, and osteopaths should be philosophers. They should be philosopher physicians, not manipulative technicians. There's a big difference.
Philosopher, physicians, very
Not
nice.
manipulative
nice.
technicians. Now, physician comes from physis, Aristotle, who's a physician,
Yeah.
which is the first science. And physis means nature.
Yeah.
So osteopaths should be philosophers
Yeah.
and using manipulation, which should be one way.
Yeah.
But we should be people involved in our society, in our culture, getting involved.
Because it keeps
Being the
us
philosopher.
fresh and dynamic.
Well,
right?
we just
And then
experience
we
life.
give. Yeah.
It's about life experience. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
embedded in my culture, as in my neighbourhood, which is where I was born. So
yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
So get in with the locals, get in with the people.
Okay.
You know, be a I don't know, be a source of inspiration.
Okay. Okay. And do we have time for another topic?
Go on, go.
Okay, so I see a lot when I'm out and about and in clinic of women from anything from late 30s to early 50s, and they're yawning, they're exhausted, they're hyper, they're wound up, sometimes with no insight. So, in other words, it seems very much like an adrenal fatigue syndrome or a lack of ability, all sorts of intolerances, sensitivities and allergies, so they tell me, but also an inability to digest regular food or perhaps the diet, you know. So I see a lot of women out there who are struggling with day-to-day.
Well, let's go back to that same what we were talking about anyway, because first thing we must do is try and avoid excessive fragmentation of the situation.
Okay.
So fatigue, diet, you know, all these factors, they're all expressions of the same phenomenon in different parts.
Okay.
So it's the difference between multiplicity and unity and multiplicity.
So it's
Now
the same
McKone,
person
right?
living that life.
Right. So McKone said osteopathy is a multiplicity and unity, which is the many as the one. So you're seeing one problem manifest in different places.
I just got it in. So is it like in one way of external and internal body, right? The external is like the macro, and the internal is like the micro.
Okay, but
in one parallel.
But again,
so the craziness that's outside is correlating inside, or
same
vice
thing.
versa.
In fact, I remember my old Tai Chi teacher saying to me one day that if you want to be flexible on the outside, you've got to be flexible on the inside, emotionally.
Right. Oh, emotionally, go back to the emotions, right?
Be flexible. So these people are having digestive problems, having fatigue problems, having emotional problems. They might feel that slightly depressed. This is the multiplicity and unity. The many multiplicity as the one problem. You've got to find out what that one problem is. And it's usually because of we're back to expectations again. How they see the world.
Right.
People get anxiety because of the way other people treat each other.
Or because the
learning
modern
never to
world is demanding them to work. And
exactly. And the opposite to multiplicity and unity is unity and multiplicity. So the one as the many. So the one as the many is you're seeing one problem, but you're seeing as many problems.
Yeah, but also the way I think a lot of people can treat their world like that. So it's fragmented. It's my work. And my work is okay. And I'm quite social because I do tennis. I'm in tennis club. It's really nice. It's lovely. And I go sailing. I've got a boat. I can't wait to get out now for the summer. And I keep fish because I go for a run every day and I'm in the gym classes. And I eat well. I mean, I don't bother with all that organic stuff, but it was very healthy diet. And I've got the kids. Tick, 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 tick.
Now you can give me a headache.
It's fragmented.
Yeah.
So
and it leads to more problems because I try to grab everything separately.
Yeah, and I have a headache listening.
Huh?
I have a headache listening. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly a headache listening. People like this, they go. So why have I got this problem? I do everything correct, everything right.
So what would you do with this delightful?
They've got to stop running around like headless chickens and all.
So you'd say that to them?
Oh yeah. So what's the point of lying? You know, saying to them, look, why don't you stop doing things? Sometimes okay, William James spoke about the act as if principle. If you want to become a runner, run. If you want to become a dancer, ballet, do ballet. If you want to become a writer, write. Right? But if you do so many things,
what do you
become nothing.
So it's like the perfect mother or the perfect.
It becomes nothing.
Yeah, it becomes nothing.
And not even nothing, no thing. It's only brought to like Henry Bortoloff. So it becomes no thing. In the end, you achieve no thing.
You don't even remember doing it.
Nothing happens.
Okay.
Because the whole process itself is one of, if I want to become a writer, then I write, as I said before, but there's a dynamic there. But if I start writing continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and ignore going to the toilet or ignore, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
So everything is a dynamic. There's no normal, but we try and, the DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Mental Health Disorders, it's like, so this is the criteria for this is the criteria for that. It's not.
So behaviour, in fact, can be a form of mental health and disturbance.
Well, it's just you can say behaviour, but that's a word for what we call something.
Yeah.
So you can call it anything else you like, but.
So a person, we say this person that I've just described, she mightn't necessarily feel depressed, but also not exactly happy. So she's somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so somewhere in the middle, but it's a habit again. It's when trying to get people to change for their own good. I had a patient quite a while ago who kept asking me questions about sleep, kept asking me questions about diet, kept asking me, and every time I gave an answer, she refused to accept that. I don't know, I don't accept that.
Okay.
So, I don't accept that, but I believe this is the way things should be. And I go, okay, so how's it working for you? Because I'm not in the osteopath's office, you are.
So you change it. Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, but even then you couldn't change it.
So
they go back to what they were doing, even though what they're doing is causing them problems.
Yeah.
It's like you hear stories about a woman or a man going back to a similar relationship where there's a fight, where they get beaten again.
Yes.
The habit. And this goes back to, I think it's Aesop's Fables, the scorpion and the frog.
Oh, right, okay.
So the scorpion wants to cross the river.
I haven't read it.
Right. So the scorpion wants to cross the river, if anyone doesn't know it. And the frog goes, no, if I take you across the river, you'll sting me. And the scorpion goes, why should I sting you? You're both going to die. The scorpion gets in the frog's back, they get halfway, the scorpion goes, bang. And the frog says, why do you do that? And the scorpion says, well, it's a habit, I can't help it. So you've got to be aware of our habits all the time. And the thing is, if you start at an early age, start getting into good habits.
Okay.
You're more plastic than when you're older. But that doesn't mean you can't change.
No.
What you have to be aware of if you want to change a habit is the tension that precedes the activity.
Right. So that's bringing us more into unity, isn't it? Because it's.
If I want to stop smoking,
it's
right?
a physical self-awareness.
Right. If I want to stop smoking, then rather than analysing the process of stopping smoking, if I become aware that there's a tension.
Yes.
That has to be relieved by whatever we do regularly, which would be smoking, as an activity. You know, you might have 4 cups of coffee a day, but you might smoke 20 cigarettes. If you smoked 20 cups of coffee a day and 2 cigarettes, the habit would be to get another cup of coffee, not to have another cigarette. It's what we do most of, and that's easier to do.
Right.
That we're, way easy. It doesn't mean
we don't have to go out of our comfort zone.
Yeah, it doesn't mean more complicated. It might be more complicated to have a cup of coffee than a cigarette. The cigarette might be in your pocket, but because you do it more,
such a habit.
Because it's easy.
You don't think it's
but what comes before the habit is executed is this rise in body tension, which can be, because we're embedded in the world, it can come from anywhere.
That's in a way that's our power, because that's giving us insight that this is what's happening, and then you can stop it happening.
Right, so the tension rises for whatever reason. It could be changing the weather, it could be sound of an aeroplane, because we are sensing.
But you know it if it's your habit, right?
Right. So whenever and by the time you think about going to have another cup of coffee, if you say stop for a second, get people used to saying stop to themselves, then go back to self-awareness. This is what Goethe was talking about, deepening personal experience. And go, it's my tension that's making me want to have another cup of coffee. It's not a habit.
Right.
So how do I change that tension? Form a new habit.
Form a new habit.
Do that 20 times.
Right.
And you will stop. It'll cut down the need for a cup of coffee.
Okay, so do anything.
Anything, but do the same thing.
But there must be an action.
And do it repeatedly.
After that tension.
And the same thing must be done again and again.
You must respond to that tension with an action.
You can do that. You can do this. You can do whatever you like. You can hit yourself. You can tear a newspaper.
Okay.
But that will relieve the tension. And if you keep doing it, every time you want to have a cup of, you might end up going from 20 to 2.
So you're doing it then without realising it?
No, you do it on purpose.
But after a while you do it without realising
Exactly, it becomes a new habit. And you break that one, but you've got a new one.
Okay.
But then you can break, but then you know...
That's not...
But then you know you can change that if you want to.
Yeah, because it's not so deep. Right, okay. Very
right. 38 minutes, 40 seconds. Is that enough? I think we've done well.
Okay.
I think the fans would like to take a break now. Well, no, thank you for talking to me, Sharon.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Good.
Yep.
Good.